And on the export side, the reduction now, when you look at the first 6 months of 2019 compared to the 6 months of 2018, year to year, that's a reduction of around 41%. So obviously the impact has hit us.
And that's China specific you're talking about now?
Absolutely. China specific.
From China?
No, China specific, both imports and exports.
Are you making it up at all with imports and exports from other countries? Because we talk about the supply chains changing, maybe Vietnam manufacturing other places, maybe Mexico. Are you seeing it made up anyways?
There is some movement to Southeast Asia in terms of what that difference is. Again, 19% is the number that we've lost on Chinese imports. We've gained about 14% in other areas, Southeast Asia. So while there has been movement in other regions and other parts, it's not really equivalent to what the market has been in China.
And do you have a sense of how much of that is because the tariffs that have been imposed already, because there are a fair number of tariffs already, as opposed to just indecision, an uncertainty, and people just holding back because they're not sure where it's going?
I think it's both. I mean, clearly for the last year, it's certainly been indecision, uncertainty in the industry. I think what you've seen now as we approach now the third and fourth quarter of the 2019 calendar year, you're now seeing actually the impact. And by that I mean, again, when you look at in terms of the impact to Southern California, I think in the complex, the nation's largest complex, the impact has been there in terms of reduction of that number. But again, going forward, it's going to be the impact on the American consumer because again, consumption is what drives our GDP, or at least 2/3 of our GDP. And if that's impacted, then of course we're going to see an impact on the economy. So I think last I will say this. Today, when we talk about the economy, I don't think anybody who addresses what the economy will look like, whether this year, next year, or the following year, in the same sentence doesn't indicate the impact of the potential trade, the magnified impact of what we're going with that in terms of China. And again, full-blown $550 billion worth of China product value as it relates to China.
Do you see patterns when people anticipate tariffs that they actually ship more for a period of time to try to get ahead of the tariffs? Because we have more tariffs that are right now scheduled for December 15.
Sure. I mean, I could definitely say that the last quarter of 2018, we saw expedited cargo coming to the Port of Long Beach. Again, we had a record year in part because of the economy, but there's another factor regarding the expedited cargo that moved in anticipating of the January 1st, 2019 application of tariffs. So I suspect we're going to see something similar as we approach the December 15th implementation of the full-blown tariff on the total of Chinese related imports.
Give us a sense of the Port of Long Beach. What percentage of your imports and exports, goods going in and out, are from Asia as opposed to other parts of the world?
Well, basically, Port of Long Beach is definitely ground zero when it comes to commerce with China. About a year ago, I would say 70% of our imports are definitely specifically from China. Today, that figure's around 68, bordering on 68. So obviously, you've seen, again, percentile-wise, an impact there. A year ago, a good amount of our exports, up to the tune of almost 40%, went to China. Today, that number is around 26%. So you can see how, again, the numbers tell the impact most definitively.
And on imports and exports, do you see it in certain classes of goods? For example, exports. Is it agriculture? Because we've had a lot of farmers hurting in the Midwest.
Well, when you look at import and export dynamic, it's fair to say that on the export side, the impact has been more impacted there in terms more significant. Again, our reduction of imports is 41%. More specifically, in terms of California and the nation, the ag-related products, grain and so forth, are a very important factor in terms of our attempt to balance trade over the many years. And unfortunately, all this has happened when we've had a good economy. So, the answer to your question, absolutely, the export side has been impacted.
And tell us about the business of the Port of Long Beach. How many people do you employ? How big a business is it as a business?
Well, good question, Mark. We just released our economic impact report a few months ago. And that report basically confirms that for the city of Long Beach, 1 in 5 jobs directly and indirectly from the Port of Long Beach. But the figures in terms of the state of California, upwards of 700,000 jobs directly or indirectly related to the Port of Long Beach. Commerce that goes to that port. And for the nation, that number goes up to 2.6 million. So obviously, we're not only just an economic engine, we're a job creator.
Okay. We're going to have more with Mario Cordero. He is the executive director of the Port of Long Beach. That's coming up on our second hour of Balance of Power on Bloomberg Radio. And now we have some breaking news. Russian President Vladimir Putin and Turkish President Recep Erdogan are holding a news conference right now over in Russia. A Turkish official earlier said that Russia is going to help establish a safe zone in Syria. We're going to bring you any headlines as they develop. This is a really important meeting here of the Turkish leader and the Russian leader, because as we know, Turkey wants to establish that safe zone. It will require the Syrians pulling back. It will also require displacing the Kurds. And this is the request from President Erdogan into President Putin, which has been granted. We'll bring you more headlines as they develop. In the meantime, this is Balance of Power on Bloomberg Television and on radio.
24th pick in the 2019 NFL Draft. From live reminders that the biggest MLB games are on the air, to recommendations of the best new sports talk shows and podcasts.
He's going to be fine.
This is a Bloomberg Pursuit look at luxury.
Follow
the 1978 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am, once owned by actor Burt Reynolds, could be yours
this
this
is
week.
Not a commercial.
Just don't
this
ask where it came from.
With
The U.S.
TuneIn
Marshal
Premium,
Service is
you could
auctioning
be
about
listening to
150
more
luxury
music
cars seized in what
commercial-free.
authorities
Get
say was an
over
$800
45
million
commercial-free
investment
music
scheme
stations.
run through a mobile solar
TuneIn.com/premium to
generator
upgrade.
company. In entertainment news, Comedy Central South Park is the latest
Hey,
beneficiary
NFL
of
fans,
Hollywood's
can't watch the
rerun
game?
Mania.
Can't be there?
The show's
We've
creators
got
and
you
media
covered.
giant
With
Viacom
TuneIn
expect to share
Premium,
between
you can hear
$450
every
and
NFL
$500
game
million
live as it's happening.
by
Or
selling the
catch it
streaming
later
rights
on
to the
demand.
animated comedy,
Anytime,
one of the longest
anywhere.
running TV
All season
series
long.
in U.S. history. And in real estate news, million-dollar homes in the U.S. are shrinking fast. Nowhere is that more stark than in Nashville, Tennessee. Superstar economy brimming with high-paying jobs, hip bars, and new luxury downtown condos. There, $1 million buys a home that's 28% smaller than just 5 years ago, according to a Zillow ranking. I'm Andrew O'Day, Bloomberg Radio.
To see something far away, you can either get a powerful telescope or you can go there.
Talk about export numbers, because they've been quite shocking. Korea, we saw Singapore, Japan, too.
Bloomberg Daybreak Asia. How should investors be positioning?
When you take a look at the consumers in China, it remains challenging.
We go there.
To what extent is access to cheap credit part of the equation?
Tonight at 6 Eastern on Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
Welcome back to the Dog Show. Up next we have Satchmo. Satchmo is a member of the Shelter Pet Group.
That's right, a group known especially for their couch snuggling, ball chasing, face licking, and of course companionship. Now let's see him in action. The guy makes eye contact with this person that's actually known as the treat stare.
Intuitive, and now he appears to be excitedly turning in circles.
That's so common with this group.
But really, the best way to know an amazing shelter pet like Satchmo is to meet one.
Visit theshelterpetproject.org today. Adopt.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Rich is just a really, really, really good guy. The term good egg isn't enough to describe him. He's also certified organic and free range. Rich puts the cap back on everything. The toothpaste, the olive oil, the shampoo, everything. He lets his 10-year-old nephew beat him at virtual tennis, even though he can straight up slay his 10-year-old nephew in virtual tennis. When the toilet paper is running low, Rich replaces the roll on the actual holder, not just on the back of the toilet. Rich is texting and driving. Rich, no. What are you doing, Rich? I was just telling everyone how great you are. Texting and driving makes good people look bad. Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
From the financial capital of the world, 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and at TikTok on Twitter. This is Bloomberg Radio.
Bob Iger about all of this in just a few minutes. As shares of rival Netflix are down again today.
Headquarters. I'm Charlie Pellegrino. Next Tuesday, here stocks are advancing as investors weigh a flurry of corporate earnings. Treasuries have paired gains. We've got the Dow, the S&P higher, NASDAQ is trading lower. The 10-year up 232nd yield right now 1.79%. So the S&P 500 index rising toward a 12-week high. It is approaching a record as energy shares jump along with oil. West Texas Intermediate crude rallying 1.5% now, 54.12 a barrel. Brent still below 60 at 59.56. Biogen shares rallying on news that will ask U.S. regulators to approve an experimental Alzheimer's therapy. Biogen surging 29%. Boeing leading the Dow higher on the eve of its quarterly results despite a cut in outlook by S&P Global Ratings. And right now Boeing is up by 2.2%. McDonald's shares, they're lower by 4%. Its critical home market lost momentum in the latest quarter amid fierce fast food competition, even as global growth continues at a rapid clip. David Bahnsen is Chief Investment Officer at the Bahnsen Group, and he owns McDonald's shares.
I remember 5 years ago, the idea was young people will never go to McDonald's again, and Chipotle is the newest, coolest thing. McDonald's went up 100%, Chipotle went down 70%. Now, Chipotle's on its way back. But my point is, they cleaned up the stores. They also simply are not relying on an only millennial, hip, urban customer. They're very diversified in their customer base.
And he mentioned Chipotle shares of Chipotle down by 1.8%. McDonald's again, its shares lower by 4.1%. Also after earnings, Lockheed Martin down 0.3%. And we have got the shares of Hasbro plunging 14.5% after its latest quarterly report. Gold, little change now, down 42 cents the ounce, 14.84.18. It is 1:02 on Wall Street. Time now for the market drivers report with a focus on American depository receipts. And here is Dave Wilson.
Thanks, Charlie. ADRs are up more than U.S. shares. The S&P ADR index is up 0.5%, and the S&P 500 is only up 0.2%. Japan's ISI has jumped more than 41% in U.S. trading. The drug maker is working with Biogen on that Alzheimer's treatment that they now plan to seek U.S. approval for next year. The drug had been declared a failure back in March. And Biogen, as you mentioned, that stock taken off as well. It's up 29% at the moment. The reversal also lifted European drug makers involved with Alzheimer's medicines. One of them is Germany's Morphosis, whose ADRs are up 6.7%. Morphosis would receive royalties on a treatment being developed by Switzerland's Roche Holding. Now, another German company, Fresenius Medical Care, has dropped 5.5%. German prosecutors are probing bribery allegations that the kidney dialysis provider settled in the U.S. in March. Now, ADRs of controlling shareholder Fresenius have fallen 3%. And China's Oriental Education and Technology has lost 3.5%. Fiscal first quarter revenue at the test preparation and private school company just barely beat analyst average estimate in the Bloomberg survey, Charlie.
And we thank you very much, Dave Wilson. Following those American depository receipts, again recapping here, U.S. stocks there mixed, NASDAQ lower by 6, down about 0.1%. S&P up 6, up 0.2. The Dow up 85, up by 0.3%. I'm Charlie Pelleton. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
This is Balance of Power.
We have the strongest economy by far in the world.
Grow our trade relationship.
I know what's broken. I know how to fix it.
Where the world of politics meets the world of business.
They've got the money they need to run a very competitive race.
We've got now a real crunch few days for Brexit. We want certainty in the markets. We want certainty in our trading relationships.
The administration is trying to create a new divided world.
Balance of Power with David Weston on Bloomberg Radio.
We're an hour away from Parliament voting on Prime Minister Johnson's Brexit plan. Canada keeps a weakened Justin Trudeau as its Prime Minister, and President Trump keeps saying things are looking up on China trade negotiations. From the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers Studio, welcome to the second hour of Balance of Power. Investors and CEOs continue to hang on every word from the administration about whether it's making progress in its China talks. But in the meantime, Chinese imports and exports continue to fall, in part because of the tariffs and in part because of the uncertainty over what comes next. Still with us now is Mario Cordero. He runs the port of Long Beach in California. It is the nation's second largest container port. So Mario, great to have you still with us. We talked earlier about the drop-off, which is very substantial from your point of view in Long Beach on China goods. What effect, if any, is that having on the consumer from what you see?
Well, first of all, thank you, David. On the consumer, we're now seeing a significant effect. A year ago, when we talked about the first round of tariffs as applies to what we refer to list 1 and list 2, that impact was around maybe 26%. Today, that impact is upwards of 67, 68%. And if we go to full-blown application of tariffs, I'm talking about the administration's planned action for December 15th, that's tariffs on $550 billion worth of China products. And that's going to really cover the whole spectrum of consumer goods.
This is affecting your business in Long Beach directly, as you've said. who really have fallen off of both imports and exports involving China. Do you have any sense about how long-lasting that effect might be? I mean, is this something that the president can turn on and off? If he were to settle tomorrow, would it bring it all back?
5.5% right now. What do you think that's telling us about
it
how
may come back after a period of time. I don't think there will be a near-term immediate fix to this. I mean, there's also the aspect that some of this cargo has moved to Southeast Asia. I'm talking about the manufacturing of those goods. So we are seeing movement there. But in that regard, again, the good news is, apparently the last round of conversations and talks between the two countries, there may be some light at the end of the tunnel, which is positive. But again, I don't think there's an expert that comments on the economy who doesn't look forward or forecast the fact that not only there's some signs of a potential recession, but in the same sentence, they talk about the impact of these trade tensions.
Do you monitor where some of this shipment might be going? I mean, it might be that people just aren't importing and exporting, but is China finding some new markets for its products so that they might not actually come back to the United States?
Sure, we do monitor that. There is conversation. Some of these products are going by way of countries like Vietnam and Thailand. However, again, there is a movement of manufacturing to Southeast Asia. So, for example, for us, today, 68% of our imports come specifically from China. Last year, I could tell you it was 70%. However, today, we've seen an increase of the import and export dynamic as it relates to a country like Vietnam, an increase at the tune of 60% year to year. Now, right now, that dynamic is 6% of our imports come from Vietnam, but it's a needle that keeps moving, which gives us interest in terms of that transition that's occurring to Southeast Asia.
Let's turn to something else that I frankly had not associated with your report, and that is sustainability. You have some specific initiatives in place and are trying to make some progress on sustainability. Tell us what those initiatives are.
Well, primarily, as you mentioned, Mark, we're very proud of the fact that we moved forward with sustainable development at the port. This commenced in 2005 with the formal application of our Green Port policy. So the first plan of action was to reduce the impact of harmful air emissions or emissions that for air quality. We've done a great job in Southern California to do that. Over a period of 10 years, we've reduced particulate matter by 88%. Now our goal is we set some rather high standards. Our goal is that by 2030, we will have zero-emission cargo handling equipment at the Port of Long Beach, and by 2035, zero-emission trucks. So we're very proud of our resume in terms of sustainable development, and now again, for the Port of the future is going to be not just a reduction of emissions, but an elimination of emissions.
How do you achieve that? Is that electric?
Well, right now there's a lot of options that are being talked about. Electric, fuel cell technology. Those are the two that are up and coming. So we're already seeing that on the electric component. Clearly, cars are making a big impact in terms of, particularly in California. As to trucks, I think you'll see in the next couple of years some trucks now coming in line. But by 2035, I'm pretty optimistic that the truck technology in relation to electric trucks is going to be full-blown, as well as potentially up and coming as fuel cell technology.
Now, you're talking about cargo handling equipment within the port itself. Let me take you a little bit beyond that, and that is the fuel used by the ships delivering containers. That's not directly your responsibility, but we're about to have new standards come into effect with using fuel that is less contaminating the environment. Is that going to have a substantial effect on your business, either because you'll be cleaner or because actually the price of shipping will go up?
Well, we'll definitely be cleaner. I mean, the standards you're referring to, David, are international standard by way of the IMO, the International Maritime Organization. And that standard is now going to be 0.5 sulfur content. That comes into play as of January 1st, 2020. So most definitively, it's a whole game changer with regard to the international carriers and the fuel that they use. So for us, we're looking forward because obviously it complies with our resume in terms of sustainable development, particularly in uses of fuel that make it not only just a reduction of emissions, but also a reduction of greenhouse gases.
But does it potentially increase the cost of shipping, cost for the people who are putting the fuel into the ships, and as a result, perhaps curtail your business?
Well, I mean, when you ask the carriers, they definitely are concerned about an increased cost, although they're doing it over a staggered period. So yes, there'll be a factor of increased shipping, but again, I think at the Port of Long Beach we've proven that if you go back to 2005, 2018 was our historical year of moving containers, 8.1 million. So with all the sustainable development that we've done, which again admittedly has increased some of the cost in shipping, obviously the shipper still believes that Southern California, specifically the Port of Long Beach, remains a port of choice.
Coming back to the central question, what do you put the probability of a China trade deal that will really help you at?
Plans to take control of the company in a deal
I think I'm very optimistic because, again, let's keep in mind that this trade war is a no-win situation. Neither country is going to win that we continue this. You see already how it's impacted the GDP of China as well as the United States. So going forward, I think once we get this all settled, things will go back to normal.
Okay, Mario Cardano, thank you so much for being with us. Canada's had its election. What was the record of Justin Trudeau economically? We're going to talk with our editor-in-chief emeritus, Matt Winkler. That's next on Balance of Power on Bloomberg Radio.
From his involvement here beyond being a consultant. And second, what this tells us about SoftBank, which
directors of companies are responsible to boards.
Let's begin with the IPO that may not be for a long, long time.
Politicians are mindful of voters.
Are those gains all going to the elite?
Scholars pay attention to data.
Does it spread beyond manufacturing?
And nearly everyone at the top of these professions listens to Bloomberg Surveillance.
Everybody listens when I'm on your show.
Tom Keene and Jonathan Ferro. Weekday mornings at 7 Eastern on Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
If you love them enough to listen to them practice the same song on tuba,
probably as big a mess as
WeWork's
He's got at least half
over
$1 billion
and over
and
over that surely you'll check NHTSA.gov/the right seat to make sure they're correctly buttoned in the backseat.
Sounds good, honey.
Check today at NHTSA.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
In-depth analysis, concise reporting, need-to-know global business news. Around the world and across the markets, Bloomberg connects the dots for decision makers. Stay on top of today's headlines. Follow big breakthroughs in tech. Understand the latest political issues. See how the world's wealthiest are spending their money. Track what's happening in the markets, and much more. Subscribe today to Bloomberg, the global standard for business reporting. Get it all at Bloomberg.com/subscription.
He turned around Sprint, but people don't view it as very successful. He stopped the bleeding, but he didn't create a really good company. And
when every second counts, you can't wing it.
Guys, a little help up here?
In a home fire, you may have less than 2 minutes to get out. So make a family home fire escape plan. Then practice home fire drills at least twice a year, so everyone knows what to do when they hear.
And yet they're stuck with rent.
Prepare your family at ready.gov/fire drill. Brought to you by FEMA, the Ad Council, and Make Safe Happen.
The world's longest wedding dress was longer than the Grand National Racecourse. Think that's big? Tonight, the Euro Millions jackpot is a colossal £40 million. 40 million! Now that's big.
Euro Millions from the National Lottery. Amazing starts here. Estimated jackpot rules and procedures apply. Players must be 16 or over.
Teaching shapes lives. If you're considering a career in teaching, you could be eligible for a £26,000 tax-free training bursary. Find out about the financial support to help you start your career in the classroom. Teaching. Every lesson shapes a life. Search Get Into Teaching. Bursary subject to eligibility. Selected subjects only.
London. Switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network. And Be Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
Welcome aboard Europe's 169th safest airline.
You would like my 169th biggest crushing score. Total body age is 169.
The number 169 never screamed glamour until now. Get the Toyota Aygo X-Play for only £169 deposit, then £169 a month with 0% APR representative. Just go. Aygo.
0% APR representative on new sales of Aygo X-Play over 48 months. £169 per month. Customer deposit of £169 when proposed and approved via Access Toyota by 31st October 2019. £3,487.50 optional final payment. Subject to status to over 18s. Indemnities may be required. Conditions apply. Toyota Financial Services.
Just want to comment. The investment banks are telling WeWork they will work.
With the new Halifax Family Boost mortgage, children can get help to buy their first home, and mum and dad earn interest on their savings. Everyone's a winner.
So there's something really flawed in the process of public offering.
The new Halifax Family Boost Mortgage. Halifax makes it happen.
Your home and savings could be at risk if mortgage repayments are not maintained. Only available in England and Wales. One applicant must hold a Halifax Reward or Ultimate Reward current account. Conditions and exclusions apply.
Hey, it's me again, the TV. Since my family gave me Now TV, there's no more endlessly searching for something they want to watch, because now I don't do filler TV, just killer TV. If my family want comedy, coming up, way better than the dad jokes in this house. Movies, I've got blockbusters. Or how about football? I've got the Premier League. Now they can watch whatever they're in the mood for.
What's your TV got for you tonight? Now TV.
Here by Bob Iger on such a busy day. Kelly just mentioned all of your big announcements, and you just came from
Chase the sun with TUI to over 40 long-haul destinations. Explore the beautiful beaches of Jamaica, sip margaritas in Mexico, or see the many wonders of Asia. And until the 26th of October, enjoy £150 off per booking. When you fly with us, we'll take you there on one of our state-of-the-art Dreamliner planes. TUI, we cross the T's, dot the I's, and put you in the middle. T's and C's apply. Minimum spend £1,200 and available on selected holidays. See website for details at All Protected.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and TikTok on Twitter. This is a Bloomberg Business
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. Earnings are rolling in, and U.S. stocks are rolling higher. We've got the S&P up 5 now, up 0.2% at 3,012. S&P, by the way, rising toward a 12-week high. Right now, higher by 5 at 3,012. That's a gain of about 0.2%. The Dow up 89 points, up 0.3%, and NASDAQ lower by 11 points, down by 0.1%. Facebook is down 3.2%. 10-year up 230 seconds, yield 1.79%. Gold right now, little change, down 12 cents. We'll call that flat on the day at $14.84 the ounce. West Texas Intermediate crude up 1.4%, $54.04 a barrel. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Bloomberg Opinion, informed perspectives, and expert data-driven commentary on breaking news.
From the Interactive Broker Studio, this is Balance of Power. It's time now for Bloomberg Opinion, and we welcome Bloomberg Editor-in-Chief Emeritus Matt Winkler. Matt, it's a real treat to have you with us. You've got a piece out of the Bloomberg. It was before the election, the Canadian election, but it still applies. Canada has most dynamic economy under Trudeau. Tell us why.
Thank you for having me.
This is really the first time you've ever really had to worry about
more
churn
than
on a month-to-month basis
country in what we call the G7, which is the major countries of developed economies. The Canadian economy under Trudeau, by just about every economic measure we look at Bloomberg, has outperformed the Group of Seven. It's outperformed the Group of Seven with its jobless rate coming down faster. It's outperformed the Group of Seven with technology industries expanding faster. And, of course, last year, essentially record in modern times, record immigration for the Canadian economy. And that immigration, by the way, has really played into a narrative of really Canada becoming a technology juggernaut. And it's benefiting, you would say, at Trump's expense, because everything that Trump is against, Trudeau is for. He's for globalization. He's for the 21st century economy. He's for engaging the world. He's for diversity. He wants as many people from different places to be there. And that's all working in his favor.
So a really good performance under Justin Trudeau. How much of it is because of his policy specifically? I mean, President Trump here says it's because of his tax cuts. You can like him, you can not like him, but they did have an effect in the economy here. What did Justin Trudeau do or not do that really helped his economy?
So when he ran in 2014, when he was a candidate, he did something that was considered really unprecedented in the modern 21st century Canadian political scene, which was he said, we need to spend a lot more money. We need to spend money on our people. We need to spend money on infrastructure. It's the only way this economy is really going to get a lot stronger than it is today. That was considered something that every Canadian politician and journalists, by the way, covering his to, you don't go there. And that's exactly where he went. And if you ask him today, he would say that was the turning point in a very tight race with Stephen Harper, because as you correctly remember,
of course, you have
the opposition said he just isn't ready. That was their campaign slogan. And of course, what Trudeau did was he said, I'm going to embrace policies that none of my political opponents would dare accept, because that's the right thing for Canada. And he followed through, because under Trudeau, the Canadian government has spent more on Canadians than any other government in history. So he invested in his people. That's a big policy change.
So this is a timely subject. How broad a subject is it? In this sense, we just had the IMF and World Bank meetings down in Washington. And what I took as the main message coming out of that for a lot of the people who run the economy worldwide is we need some fiscal investment from a lot of different countries. Does this apply to Germany? Does it apply to other countries around the world?
Absolutely. And Trudeau was ahead of everybody. You could say better lucky than smart, but you could also say lucky and smart. He recognized that there was a paucity of investment in developed economies, generally speaking, at a time when it was essential. Low interest rates, by the way, made it a lot easier.
Justin Trudeau says that he's running not just for another 4 years, but 40 years. This is what he said.
This election was about so much more than just the next 4 years. This election is about the next 40 years.
So that's a noble intention, Matt. Is there much he can do really to affect the next 40 years? What can he do in economic policy going forward?
Okay, so one thing that he clearly has done, he has, in the era of Trump, made Canada a beacon to the rest of the world, surprisingly. This was the Obama economy that Canada was competing with. And actually, Trudeau and Obama are very similar that way, which is why Obama endorsed him. But what Trudeau has done is said, no, unlike Trump, unlike lots of other leaders right now, I'm embracing the world, I'm engaging in the world, and I'm asking the world to come to Canada, because Canada is all about changing the world for the better. And that is making a difference, because the population of Canada is going to benefit from it. It's going to become more diverse. It's a young population, by the way, that votes. And it's possible that he really is changing the political landscape.
It's also an economy that's very integrated with the United States in many ways. How dependent are they on how we do over the next 2, 3, 4 years?
There's no question about the dependence or the mutual relationship, symbiotic relationship between Canada and the U.S. To the extent that Canada is still a very free market, a market that American business appreciates as much as Canadian business appreciates America's market, that's not likely to change. That's only likely to continue.
He's a minority prime minister. He doesn't have a majority right now. He's going to have to get coalitions on individual initiatives, if not overall. Will that help him or hurt him as he moves forward with his economic policy?
He's in a beneficial position, because the party that has already committed itself to joining his so-called coalition is a party that is actually more left of Trudeau. And to that extent, Trudeau's big picture initiatives have to do with climate change. That's the party that's going to be with him on many of these big picture initiatives.
But maybe not on the pipeline that he bought.
Being the leader of the entire country, and as you know, a big part of it, if not the biggest part, is all about fossil fuel. Run away from more than half the population. He has to pay attention to that. So that pipeline deal was an example of his, you would say, moderation.
But he's going to stay in office. So thanks very much to Matt Winkler, who is the editor-in-chief emeritus of Bloomberg. You can read more on this and other stories from Bloomberg Opinion at Bloomberg.com/politics. Bloomberg.com/opinion, and on the terminal by typing in OPI and go. Next, we're going to talk with a Georgetown law professor about that Supreme Court review of the CFPB. This is Balance of Power.
What's your sense of the health right now?
This is a Bloomberg Market Minute. U.S. stocks are mostly higher as investors assess latest corporate earnings. Procter & Gamble posted strong sales growth, while McDonald's lost momentum in U.S. sales. The Dow is up 76 points, S&P 500 up 5, but the Nasdaq is slipping 10 points. Biogen shares are surging. It will ask U.S. drug regulators to approve the company's experimental Alzheimer's therapy. The National Association of Realtors reports existing home sales dropped to a 3-month low in September as the median sales price increased. Low mortgage rates have been providing support, but the market continues to be restrained by a lean supply of properties for sale. And Verizon is offering a new incentive for wireless subscribers. It's a year of free access to the Disney Plus streaming service beginning November 12th. Donna Wilson, Bloomberg Radio.
You're fierce. You take care of business and don't hold back. Taking care of your health shouldn't be any different. You know when something's off. Don't ignore symptoms like fatigue, joint pain, and rashes. Listen to your body. It could be lupus. We're here to help you take control. Learn how at BeFierceTakeControl.org. Brought to you by the Lupus Foundation of America and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Bloomberg is excited to convene the Year Ahead Summit on November 7th in New York City. Speakers include Facebook COO Sheryl Sandberg, award-winning actor, producer, and businesswoman Sarah Jessica Parker, TPG co-CEO Jim Coulter, and CVS Health CEO Larry Merlo. Supporting sponsors Pfizer, Workday, Hennessy Paradis Imperial. Participating sponsor Invesco QQQ. Learn more at BloombergLive.com/TYA. Register with code RADIO.
It's going to be a bit chilly today.
It's me again.
And with the worst of winter yet to reach London, you don't want to come home to a broken boiler. We're with you. So that's why with British Gas Home Care, we've got your boiler covered 365 days a year. We have thousands of engineers on hand to help get your boiler up and running again, and all from just 46p a day. Buy selected home care products online by the 28th of October and get 1 month free. Search British Gas Home Care.
What's your TV got for you tonight? Now TV. 18 plus month passes are renewed, terms apply. And to say happy birthday, we're giving you a pair of
With the new Halifax Family Boost mortgage, children can get help to buy their first home.
No, but it's ours.
Mum
10
and
years
Dad
ago,
are
we launched
interested
our
in their
first
savings.
Galaxy smartphone.
Everyone's
and to
a
celebrate,
winner.
we're giving customers who purchase any Galaxy S10, Note 10 or A95G
The
the
new
chance to claim a
Halifax
pair
Family
of
Boost
amazing
mortgage.
wireless Galaxy
Halifax
buds.
makes it happen.
And I didn't get you anything.
Get the latest Samsung Galaxy smartphone now in your local Carphone Warehouse shop or carphonewarehouse.com. Offer available on purchases made by the 23rd of October 2019 and online within
This
30
autumn,
days to
as the nights draw in,
Here's
beat
a
the
swing
cold
and a
with
drive
Now
deep to
TV.
right field, looking up. Good
Curl up with the latest
between
blockbusters,
game-winning shots
including
and
Bohemian
walk-off
Rhapsody
homers.
and
Follow,
Hotel
tune in on
Mumbai.
social media to discover the
Plus,
latest and
with over
greatest
40
in
new
live
movies added
sports.
each month. From Aquaman to How to Train Your Dragon 3, Now TV's got you covered.
From live
Whatever
reminders
you
that
feel
the
like
biggest
watching.
MLB games are
Get
on the
cozy
air,
with the
to
latest and
recommendations
best
of the
movies
best
for
new
just
sports talk
$11.99 a
shows and
month.
podcasts.
Search Now TV today. 18 plus month passes auto renewals unless
And
cancelled.
tune in on
Terms apply.
Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get
And
the
to say
most
happy
out of
birthday,
TuneIn.
we're giving you a pair of award-winning Silver Galaxy
Welcome
buds.
back to the exchange. It's a huge day of earnings.
No,
and tomorrow
but it's
will be even
ours.
bigger.
10
We
years
hear
ago,
from
we launched our
Boeing,
first
Caterpillar,
Galaxy
Microsoft,
smartphone. And to
Tesla.
celebrate, we're
Nearly
giving
a quarter of
customers
the
who
S&P
purchase
500
any
is
Galaxy
reported so
S10,
far,
Note 10 or
and 83% are
A95G the
reporting
chance
above
to claim a
estimates.
pair of
The average
amazing
beat is around
wireless
4%,
Galaxy
and
buds.
today's
Wow,
big jumps
and I
of
didn't get you
Harley-Davidson
anything.
Get
and
the latest
Biogen
Samsung
are
Galaxy
pushing the
smartphone
S&P
now at your
value
local O2
ETF
shop or
to a new all-time
o2.co.uk.
intraday
Offer
high.
available on
For
purchases
more, I'm
made by
joined
the
now by
23rd of
Samir
October
Samana,
2019
Senior
and
Global
claimed
Market
online within
Strategist
30
at
days.
Wells
T&Cs
Fargo
apply.
Investment
Chase
Institute.
the sun with
Samir,
to over 40 long-haul
I mean, what's it telling you? The
destinations.
Dahlia's doing well.
Explore
We
the
saw the
beautiful
banks in
beaches of
particular
Jamaica,
outperform last
sip
week. Today is a
margaritas in
host of other
Mexico,
reasons, but
or
is there
see the
something bigger
many
going on here?
wonders of Asia.
You know, I think,
And
Kelly,
until
what
the
it really
26th
tells
of
you is that
October,
expectations have
enjoy
gotten so
£150
low
off
that
per
it didn't take
booking.
much for a lot
When
of
you
these
fly
companies
with
to
us,
really get
we'll
going.
take
And
you
so
there
that's
on one
what
of
you're
our
seeing is some
state-of-the-art
investors are coming
Dreamliner
back to the
planes.
space and saying, you know,
TUI,
maybe there's a
we
few
cross the
babies that have been
T's,
thrown
dot
out with
the
the
I's,
bathwater
and
that we
put
want to
you
kind
in
of
the
try and
middle.
get under the
T's
hood
and C's
on,
apply. Minimum
and
spend
maybe
£1,200
gravitate it back.
available on selected
But that being
holidays.
said,
See
we would
website
also
details
put
at
out there that growth
protected.
continues to slow. You know,
You're
we think
listening
economic
to
growth in
Tune
the
In,
U.S. will
where
be a
you
little
can
bit
hear
slower
all the
next year
audio
than it
you
was
love
this year.
in one
So,
place.
you know, growth
Live
oriented companies will
NFL
also do well
games,
because
the
they do tend to
hottest
be a little bit more
music,
stable.
breaking news
Right, I
and
mean,
podcasts.
look, the popular trade
Push
for a
play
long
and
time
go
has
about
been
your
FANG,
day.
has
Only
been,
on
you know,
TuneIn.
tech software, but we've talked about how those are underperforming
Want to know what's
right
happening
now.
in right now?
Why do you think
The latest
that
headlines
is?
are just
Is
a
it
tap
possible
away with
that
Fox
that
News Talk
what you're
on
saying about growth is
TuneIn. When
maybe a
news
little too
breaks, get
pessimistic?
up-to-the-minute coverage on developing
So
stories
probably what
from
happened
around the
with
world.
growth is,
Plus,
you know, as
hear all the
expectations
Fox
got
shows you
too
watch on
low
your
for the
TV.
value-oriented
Listen to
companies.
Fox
They probably
News
got
Talk
too
around
high
the
for the
clock on
growth-oriented companies. So
TuneIn.
they've had a little
In
bit
the
of a
dictionary,
valuation
a
reset.
podcast is
But what's been
this:
funny
a
is
digital audio file made available on the internet typically is a series in which new installments can be received by subscribers automatically. But on TuneIn, a podcast is this.
I'm Adam Grant. This is Work Life.
tells us is maybe now investors are saying, you know what, it's maybe not just about growth,
and it's
but it might be about,
like
a little bit more defense than even growth at this point.
Well, and interest rates. I mean, when you see REITs, utilities, and staples up, you usually think, okay, they're thinking about lower rates for longer. Even at a time when we've had yields backing up, and look at the spread between the
from the Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studio in New York, Bloomberg 1130 to Washington, D.C., Bloomberg 99.1 to Boston, Bloomberg 1061 to San Francisco, Bloomberg 960 to the country, Sirius XM Channel 119, and around the globe, the Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Balance of Power with David Weston.
Coming up on Balance of Power, my colleague June Grasso joins us to talk about how the upcoming Supreme Court review of how the CFPB is structured. But first, let's get a market check with Charlie Pellet.
All right, thank you very much, David Weston. Happy Tuesday, by the way. We've got the Dow, the S&P, both higher. NASDAQ is lower. It is a mixed session. Most stocks are advancing as investors weigh a flurry of corporate earnings. S&P 500 index advancing toward a 12-week high, approaching a record as energy shares jump along with oil. West Texas Intermediate crude up 1.4% right now, $54.04 a barrel. Biogen surging on news. It will ask U.S. regulators to approve an experimental Alzheimer's therapy. Shares of Biogen, they're up now by 31%. Wall Street's also keeping an eye on any trade developments, and so are the people who run the nation's ports. Mario Cordero is executive director of the Port of Long Beach, and he was our guest right here on Balance of Power.
The good news is, apparently the last round of conversations and talks between the two countries, there may be some light at the end of the tunnel, which is positive. But again, I don't think there's an expert that comments on the economy who doesn't look forward or forecast the fact that not only there's some signs of a potential recession, but in the same sentence, they talk about the impact of these trade tensions.
And lots of earnings reports today. For example, Hasbro tumbling 14% after reporting weaker than expected third quarter profit, a disappointing result. It largely blamed on tariffs who aren't even in place yet. After the bell, we will be hearing from both Snap and Chipotle. The 10-year up 3/32 at yield 1.78%. We've got gold right now flat at $14.84 the ounce. Crude, as I mentioned, are by 1.4%. Recapping, S&P up 4, up 0.2%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Thanks so much, Charlie. When Congress set up the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, it said that the chair could be dismissed only for cause. But some have argued that the president must have the power to dismiss the head for whatever reason. And the Supreme Court has now said it will take up that question and decide it this term. To take us through it, we welcome now my colleague June Grasso and Adam Levitin. He's professor of law at Georgetown. So welcome, Professor. Let's start with exactly what the issue is. The statute's pretty clear in exactly when they can remove the head. What's wrong with Congress saying that, in fact, you can't remove except for cause?
From my perspective, absolutely nothing. But the claim that the petitioners to the Supreme Court have is that
there's no more endlessly searching for something they want to watch. Because now I don't do filler TV, just killer TV. If my family want reality TV, I can fill that island
effectively
movies. I've got blockbusters.
Or how about thrillers? To take care that the laws are effectively executed.
Now they can watch
that's my question. There are a lot of textualists, as they're called in the Supreme Court. What is the text of the Constitution that this statute might violate?
The argument, if you had to look for a textual book in the Constitution, it would be the requirement that the president take care that the laws be faithfully executed. It's a pretty vague textual hook for invalidating the structure of a major federal agency. That would be the hook.
Does it seem as if the justices took this case in order to reverse the Ninth Circuit?
I think that's likely why at least 4 of them.
The Peugeot Professional Fan Range is the beating heart of businesses across the UK. Whether you're on the road with only your DAB radio for company or navigating tight spots with rear parking sensors, all Peugeot Professional Fans give your business that edge. Visit your local Peugeot dealership during our October van event from the 10th to the 31st of October.
Justice Kavanaugh has written on this when he was
based on the DC Circuit, he's pretty clear about what he thinks.
Oh, absolutely. Justice Kavanaugh wrote a very, very long opinion that he thinks that the
puts you on the sideline for the 2019 college football season free all year long.
Whether
with college football on TuneIn, hear the home and away call for more than 140 schools.
Well, Professor Levitin, we've had independent agencies around Washington for a good long time, and this is not a case of first impression. You go back to 1935, and I thought that was pretty much resolved. Basically, the petitioner's asking to reverse precedent here, to overrule it.
Hear the excitement and pageantry of college
I think
football
they would be
all
perfectly
season long,
happy if the
free
Supreme
on
Court
TuneIn.
wanted to say all independent agencies are not really independent and that the heads of those agencies are removable at will. So that would be reversing this 1935 case you mentioned. It's called Humphrey's Executor. But I think there's the possibility of a more narrow
Welcome back. Let's catch you up on a couple stories that should be on your radar today. And it's time for Rapid Fire. And here to break down the headlines are Robert Frank, Kate Rogers, and Dom Chu. And there's been so much news today between earnings, all the corporate stuff, and Disney CEO Bob Iger was just on air. If you missed it, Julia Boorstin asked him what he thinks about the competition Disney faces in the streaming wars. This is what he said about pricing.
And you combine that single director who is removable
in terms of
under
pricing
the
because we have
statute
such a unique
only
product.
for
When you put in one
with there being
service on one
budgetary
app, Disney and
independence, the
Star
CFPB
Wars
is
and
not
Pixar
funded through
and
congressional
Marvel
appropriations,
and National
but
Geographic, and you add to that The
gets
Simpsons, and not only the great library, but all the original
operating
content
budget.
that's being made under those brand
You combine
umbrellas.
that with
We're very,
some
very
other features
different
of the
than any other
agency,
service that's
and
out there.
the idea is
So while
that
we
this
view the others as
combination of
competition, we're
features
not fixated
is
on the
somehow
competitive side of
impermissible,
things
whether
here.
it's simply
And we have to show what's happening in Netflix shares, which are down about 3% again today. This is music to investors' ears. What's the one thing you want a good investment to have, Dom? Pricing power. And he's suggesting they will have it.
Well, first of all, I mean, so listening to that entire interview, I mean,
the
first of all,
Mosaic idea at least creates the
Bob Iger
possibility
knows what he's
of
talking about because
distinguishing the
he's such a
CFPB
seasoned media
from
veteran out there, probably one of the most
many
seasoned
of them
veterans
are
out there in media.
traditional
But
regulatory
every time he
agencies.
speaks,
So the court
it's
could
very
make
clear,
a
it's easy to
narrow
understand, and he's got a
decision
very
just
good
based
point for it.
on
For better or worse,
whether or
for
not
better
the
or worse.
head
In
of
August
the
of 2015,
CFPB is
when he spoke
removable by
candidly
the
about the loss of
president,
subscriber
or
losses
could
to
make a
ESPN,
broader
that's what set the
decision
stock
about
down. It
the
inflated for
provision of the
years until this
Dodd-Frank
comes.
Act
He
that
has a
actually
way of
created the
speaking to that
CFPB.
audience and telling them
Well,
exactly
there's a
what they
question of
want
whether
to hear.
there's a question of severability.
Professional
So
way. I don't mean that from
They're
like a,
going to think of this as two stages. One is there a problem
when
with
it comes to the
CFPB's
streaming side of things,
constitutionality?
what he's
And
trying to
then
do
if
is
so,
in
what
fact
is the
try to
remedy?
put investors in a position where they
there
believe in the
are two
product.
ways the court
And
can
listen
find,
to that
I think,
interview.
to get
You
to there
can't
being a
argue with the
constitutional
library that
problem.
they have at their
One is simply the at-will removal is not allowed for any agency. That would be a pretty radical decision.
We have stranger
The other
things,
is
or
a
we have
mosaic theory
Stranger
that
Things going to transcend like Cinderella.
for-cause removal
the
plus
point is
the other features of the
have
CFPB
different
in combination
content. So
are
to
not
say we're not
acceptable
worried about pricing because
constitutionally.
we have different content.
If the court
I do
goes
think
with
investors have spoken. So today,
either theory,
Disney's
it has a question of what's it going to do.
twice that of Netflix.
And one remedy would simply be to say, well,
we were talking the exact
if the problem is lack of at-will removal, we're just going to read that into the statute and say it has, even though the statute says for cause, that's what Congress wanted, it's got to be at-will.
Well, and to your point about Cinderella,
Another
and what
possibility
withstands the test of time.
is to
I mean,
say,
Stranger
well,
Things is fantastic, but
this,
kids get
the
hooked
problem
on these
isn't
movies,
at-will
and so if you
removal
have
per
an
se,
entire catalog of all of these
or lack
classic
of it.
Disney movies.
Rather,
that,
it's the mosaic,
you all
it's the
have kids,
combination.
they want to watch the same
we don't
things
know which
over and
one
over
of these
again.
things
And some of the
Congress
commentary
would have
around this,
wanted
they said
if it had
millennials
to,
tend to churn through
change a
programming
feature.
much quicker
We're
than
gonna throw it
younger
back, and we're
children
gonna say
who
the whole
want to watch the
agency
same
is
thing over and over
unconstitutional
again.
and throw
So
it back
they
to
may
Congress
very
to
well
fix.
have pricing
Professor,
power
there's
for that
another
reason.
intriguing aspect of this, at least to me, which is typically when you go up to the Supreme Court, the Solicitor General comes in on the side of the government and the agency. In this case, he said, no, I think it is unconstitutional. In fact, the Trump administration has not been a big friend of the CFPB. And this is something that Senator Elizabeth Warren actually noted recently, the candidate for president. This is what she said.
The agency's got a lot of enemies. They're going to keep coming after it. They missed on the
when I'm president, that agency's going to do just fine.
How fine can it do, Professor, if there's a Supreme Court ruling the Constitution actually limits what it can do?
Well, the Constitution ruling would not be limiting what the agency can do. Most likely the ruling would be simply saying that the director is removable at will by the president. And if Elizabeth Warren is elected president, she might actually welcome that ruling because it would allow her to fire the current director, Kathy Kraninger, on the first day of her administration. That she wouldn't have to, right now, if Kraninger wanted to serve out her full 5-year term, she could stick around for a while into the Warren administration, assuming that she had not done anything that created grounds for forecalling.
So will that actually dampen things?
So the politics of this get a little weird, right? On the one hand, the Trump administration wants this to be an at-will removal.
I understand that it's
on the other hand, the Trump administration has no intention of removing director Kranenberg.
It wasn't even an issue.
At-will removal would actually benefit
just the logistics
a Democratic
around
administration
four
more
different
than the Trump
tariffs with
administration at this
multiple
point.
Sometimes you have to be careful what you wish for. Okay, many thanks to my colleague Jim Grasso and to Adam Levitin of the Georgetown Law School. President Trump has moved markets since the day he took office with his news conferences, his Oval Office meetings, and his tweets. But now some Democrats are asking whether some people may be benefiting from the turmoil. It's a whole new sort of insider trading, and it is very controversial. But at least several Democratic senators are demanding that something be done. We talk with Bloomberg's Matt Robinson, who covers security enforcement next. That's on Balance of Power, and this is Bloomberg Radio.
And that's the meantime that we talk about between the U.S. and China.
Hey, y'all, Jeff Foxworthy here. Now, if you've ever found yourself repeating the same thing over and over for 75 years, you might be Smokey Bear.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
That's why I'm filling in for Smokey to switch things up, because there's a lot more to say. And I should know because my grandfather was a firefighter. And one of the things he taught me is that the people that love the outdoors the most are often the ones accidentally starting wildfires, which means always BYOB. No, bring your own bucket to the campfire.
Is he the only winner here?
And be extra careful with things like burning yard trimmings. Don't just walk away, or chances are you might be starting a wildfire. So for the love of the outdoors, go to SmokeyBear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Why has J.D. Power ranked Commonwealth Financial Network #1 in independent advisor satisfaction among financial investment firms for the sixth straight time? We think it comes down to one thing: you. Because it's your input and feedback that keeps us focused on what's most important to you and your clients, and continually pushes us to be the best we can be. Maybe that's why we receive top marks in every category of the J.D. Power 2019 Advisor Satisfaction Survey. They named us #1 in client support, #1 in firm leadership, #1 in operational support, #1 in compensation, #1 in professional development support, and #1 in technology support. Ready to partner with the best? Call Commonwealth at 866-462-3638 or visit commonwealth.com and feel the power. Member FINRA SIPC, a registered investment advisor. For 2019 J.D. Power award information, visit jdpower.com/awards.
what more do they want to gain from him? He's the founder, I get it.
But we all love more, don't we? More sleep, more sun, more me time. So we've added our newer Zoomer trains with more seats and more great value fares. In fact, there are 3,773 more £29 single tickets every week on our Zoomer trains between London and Leeds.
Given how much it used to be worth,
Book direct to lnr.co.uk. Launch alongside existing LNER trains.
I think that's bad. Can I give a slightly controversial take on this?
We want a very controversial take.
The prevailing narrative on this story has been so decidedly negative for the better part of 6 to 9 months to a year at this point. And it's because every time SoftBank itself invested in the company, it marked up its own book by a certain amount of money. What I would say is an interesting development here. This will be a great.
It's going to be a bit chilly today. And with the worst of winter yet to reach London, you don't want to come home to a broken boiler. We're with you. So that's why with British Gas Home Care, we've got your boiler covered 365 days a year. We have thousands of engineers on hand to help get your boiler up and running again, and all from just 46p a day. Buy selected home care products online by the 28th of October and get 1 month free. Search British Gas Home Care. Conditions apply. Prices vary by postcode.
That's a long bridge to cross.
Sean, tell us about your upcoming ship movie.
San Francisco 49ers upgrading their stadium.
I never looked at
Season ticket holders can now expect free, unlimited food starting next year. It includes everything from nachos, popcorn,
a Sean the Ship movie as part of your year of endless adventures with
season ticket holders. But talk about one up in Atlanta, where the new stadium was making a whole point of saying we're going to have really inexpensive food. We're not going to have this crazy, prices on it. Now they're still 49ers, so we'll just give it to you for free. Is that going to get people in at these games?
Kudos to
January
TV. Since my family gave me Now TV, there's no more endlessly searching for something they want to watch. Because now I don't do filler TV, just killer TV. If my family want movies, I've got blockbusters. Sports, these games are unmissable. Get in. Or how about horrors?
And they love free food in particular. I would take some free nuggets.
Now they can watch whatever they're in the mood for.
Yeah, that would get Kate in the stadium.
What's your TV got for you tonight? Now TV. 18 plus month passes into renewed terms and conditions.
Want to know what's happening right now? The latest headlines are just a tap away with Fox News Talk on TuneIn. When news breaks, get up-to-the-minute coverage on developing stories from around the world. Plus, hear all the Fox shows you watch on your TV. Listen to Fox News Talk around the clock on TuneIn. TuneIn puts you on the sideline for the 2019 college football season free all year long. With college football on TuneIn, hear the home and away call for more than 140 schools live. Regular season matchups and rivalry games. Conference championships and bowl games. The college football playoff.
He steps up. He's going deep down the right side. Andrews.
You can listen to it all for free. At home, on campus, or on the road, hear the excitement and pageantry of college football all season long, free on TuneIn.
Scary what you can get for just
TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
Get social with TuneIn. Follow TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest and greatest audio happenings across the app. Explore exclusive content. Learn about the hottest new podcasts.
The
Nostalgia Mixtape, a new podcast hosted by yours truly, Savannah Shroud.
And get alerted when the big game is about to begin.
This Sunday is Championship Sunday, when we'll find out which two teams are going to play for the Lombardi Trophy.
And tune into your feed and be in the know when it matters most.
So that's why with British Gas Home Care, we've got
From the
your boiler
Tune
covered
I'm Fontaine with your daily
365
sports
days a year.
update. Don't
We have
forget,
thousands of engineers on hand to
today
help get
we
your
have
boiler up
Game
and running
1
again.
of the
And all for
World
just
Series.
46p a day.
Nationals
Buy
Astros,
selected home care
8:08
products
p.m.
online by the
Eastern.
28th
Not
of
only
October,
that, get ready
and get
for
one
Game
month
2.
free.
That's happening
British Gas
Wednesday
Home Care.
at 8:07 p.m.
Prices vary by
Eastern.
brand.
Nationals and Astros.
Tell us about your upcoming showmanship.
If you want to catch the World Series, search MLB and favorite, set up reminders so you don't miss any of the games. At your TuneIn Sports Update.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at TikTok on Twitter. This is a Bloomberg Business
From
Flash.
Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. It is a mixed day for the U.S. stock market. The S&P, the Dow, they're higher. NASDAQ trading lower. NASDAQ down 13 points right now, a drop of 0.2%. S&P up 4, up 0.2, while the Dow higher by 84 points now, up by 0.3%. Stocks are advancing as investors weigh a flurry of corporate earnings. S&P 500 index pushing toward a 12-week high. 10-year is up 3/32, yield 1.78%. Gold little changed, up 53 cents the ounce now at $14.85.13. And West Texas Intermediate crude up 1.4%, $54.04 a barrel. I'm Charlie Pellet. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash. Now back to David Weston as Balance of Power continues.
Thank you, Charlie. From the Interactive Broker Studio, this is Balance of Power. I'm David Weston. 14 Democratic senators have written to top federal law enforcers asking that they look into allegations that some investors may be benefiting from trading in stocks and derivatives using insider knowledge about Trump administration statements that could drive the markets. Bloomberg's Ben Bain covers securities law enforcement for Bloomberg, and we welcome him now. So, Ben, tell us about this. How serious is it? And is it true that it actually came out of a Vanity Fair piece?
Yeah, that's right. So last week there was a Vanity Fair article which has really caused a lot of chatter in everywhere from Wall Street to Washington. Basically, what the article said was it picked out these 5 trades that it said happened kind of near the end of trading and a bunch of different dates from June to September, and they preceded major geopolitical events. And it laid out a situation where people in those trades could have made, in one case, up to a $1.8 billion profit. That's what the article said. Since then, though, the CME Group, where these trades allegedly took place has said the premise was patently false. Wall Street kind of professionals have come out and basically said that, a lot of these details kind of don't add up. But raising the specter that, this could have happened and there could have been some type of inside information that, kind of led to these trades ahead of these kind of major political events has caused, like everything right now in Washington, a major political firestorm.
So, Ben, you cover this, as I say, regularly for Bloomberg. My impression from the outside was the SEC sort of monitors trades, and they have a way, basically, of even the algorithms kicking it out to say this is really out of the ordinary. Wouldn't have kicked it out if, in fact, there was significant insider trading going on?
So worth kind of noting, in this case, going back to the Vanity Fair article, we're talking about futures contracts. So that would probably be the CFTC, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, that would be overseeing that. But yes, there's a whole kind of host of federal rules that would, lead to data being shared and reported. And the CME, kind of the world's biggest futures exchange in theory, would be looking for that as well. That's kind of where a lot of, the speculation that maybe, some pieces could be missing from this have kind of come from, because these are massive trades that we're talking about here. So people are wondering, well, how could that have happened? And no one really would have noticed. Either way, right now, you have a situation where a bunch of senior senators, Democrats, and also some in the House have called for, the SEC, as you mentioned, the CFTC, and even the Department of Justice and the FBI to get involved and figure out what happened, if anything did.
But do we have any sense of what the response is? Obviously, if you're at the SEC or the CFTC, you have to pay attention to 14 senators writing you. But do we have any sense of how seriously they're taking this in Washington?
They've been, they haven't responded, to these senators as far as we know. They do respond, though. These are independent, regulatory agencies, and typically what would happen is, they would, if they're asked to look into something, they get back to the senators at some point. I think in one case, one of the senators writing separately from these senators asked, gave a time frame of, several weeks or a month. So I suspect we will hear something, at some point, but we don't have a clear sense in terms of, how this actually plays out. And, as I mentioned, a number of kind of, Wall Street firms that some of my colleagues have spoken with, and also the exchange itself has kind of, dismissed this article. So, we're going to have to kind of see how this plays out, I think.
You could dismiss it, but this comes against the backdrop of some insider trading allegations involving Congress, in fact, including a guilty plea recently. So it's not like Washington doesn't know anything about insider trading based on special information people have inside the government.
Sure, and it's worth noting, too, the whole premise of insider trading in the futures market, which is what we're talking about here in this Vanity Fair article, really just became something in the last decade or so after the financial crisis that was actually written into the law as being illegal. So, it's kind of interesting, and certainly, as you mentioned, there was a member of Congress that, that recently, was found to have engaged in this kind of activity in the stock market. So, we're basically seeing, Washington being looked at, kind of through a critical lens right now as it comes to, what might be happening in terms of insider information that people might have in their roles in government.
Ben, thank you so much for joining us today. It's Bloomberg's Ben Bain. A short time from now, Britain's Parliament is due to take up Prime Minister Boris Johnson's Brexit plan, which he hopes to get approved within the week. To set the stage, we welcome now Bloomberg Opinion's Therese Raphael. So Therese, set the stage. It's only a few minutes from now, as I understand, the Parliament takes up the vote.
Yeah, it's a pretty historic evening in many months of historic debates and voting. This may be, and I stress may, be the first time that a Brexit deal actually gets parliamentary approval. However, that won't be the end of it, because there's a second vote on Boris Johnson's proposal to rush through the legislation that implements the deal in all of 3 days, which is a fantastically short amount of time to get such an important piece of legislation through, and basically bypasses a lot of the scrutiny you'd expect Parliament to give. So the second vote is in some ways more important than the first one, because that's where Parliament might sort of put down its its foot and say we want proper scrutiny. And if that happened, Boris Johnson has threatened to actually pull the bill and go for an election. And we can talk about what that entails as well. But yeah, two very big votes.
Do we have any sense of the votes, where the vote count is, the whips are on the first vote and the second vote? I understand the second one might be more difficult even than the first for the Prime Minister.
Yeah, Downing Street seemed pretty confident that they had the numbers to get the first vote through. They don't have the Northern Irish Democratic Unionist Party, of course, but they do have, quite crucially, the hardline Brexiters within the Conservative Party. They have a lot of moderate Brexiters. They think they've got enough Labour MPs who come from Leave voting constituencies to bolster those numbers. He needs 320, and they're confident that they can do this by a few votes. We'll soon see. It's that second vote, as you said, that will be the trickier one, because this is where MPs, will start to push back a little bit and feel that the whole point of Brexit was to restore sovereignty to Parliament, and yet Johnson is saying to Parliament, really, you don't need to scrutinise this very closely. You can just sort of sign off on my piece of legislation that gives ministers, by the way, enormous powers without really examining it. And I think lawmakers might have a thing or two to say about that.
Okay, Therese Raphael from Bloomberg Opinion, thank you so much for joining us, setting up that British parliamentary vote coming up shortly. Now we turn to Jason Kelly, who can tell us what's coming up on Bloomberg Business Week. I hope you're going to cover Brexit a little bit, Jason.
We're going to be all over that right at the top of the show, David, for sure, as Teresa really nicely laid out. This is the moment of truth. I feel like we've had a lot of moments of truth, but this feels like the real moment of truth, at least for today. I don't know. You know the political world better than I do. This one has had a lot of twists and turns. We're going to keep an eye on that. We're going to check in with the CEO of Syngenta. He's talking about a huge investment when it comes to sustainability. Also, Kevin Plank out at Under Armour stepping aside. We should get into that. We're going to have Texas Instruments earnings, so it's a pretty busy day.
Yeah, no kidding, it's busy. We'll talk about Kevin Plank a little bit, because he really created that company, Under Armour, and it struggled a bit and then came back a little bit. Why now?
Well, and we're going to dig into that, because I have some questions around exactly that notion. He was sort of out and about a little bit this fall, sort of setting the stage for this revived, renewed Under Armour. He's obviously been a huge voice in Baltimore in the broader athletic industry, so I think there's some questions. Investors not happy about this.
We've got some great stuff coming up on Bloomberg Business Week. That's Jason Kelly, who'll be here with Carol Masser. Great to have you. Thank you very much for joining us for Balance of Power today. I'm David Weston. We hope that you'll tune in again tomorrow on Bloomberg Radio.
And it's actually also something Mark Zuckerberg talked about in the past in support of.
What if your email let you see a project's entire history and not just the messages sent to you? What if everyone else on your team could see it as well? Then it wouldn't be email at all. Move communication from inboxes to channels in Slack. Instead of seeing a partial set of messages about a project, everyone in Slack sees exactly the same thing and moves work forward faster. Slack. Choose a better way to work. Get started at slack.com.
Cars all change casserole. So, Chloe walks in from school, tears all over her face. She says,
I don't want to animals anymore.
I blooming love my meat, but not as much as I love my little girl. That's why we've made some changes to our old favourite, sausage casserole, now with meat-free Cumberlands, but still with my magic touch, a dollop of mango chutney, just as tasty as it used to be.
Make your own with the new Tesco Plant Chef range, Food Love Stories, brought to you by Tesco.
And to say happy birthday, we're giving you a pair of award-winning Silver Galaxy Buds.
But it's not my birthday till June.
No, but it's ours. 10 years ago, we launched our first Galaxy smartphone. And to celebrate, we're giving customers who purchase any Galaxy S10, Note 10 or A90 5G the chance to claim a pair of amazing wireless Galaxy Buds.
Wow, and I didn't get you anything.
Get the latest Samsung Galaxy smartphone now at your local EE shop or ee.co.uk. Offer available on purchases made by the 23rd of October 2019 and claimed online within 30 days. The
The Peugeot Professional Van range is the beating heart of businesses across the UK. Whether you're on the road with only your DAB radio for company or navigating tight spots with rear parking sensors, all Peugeot Professional Vans give your business that edge. Visit your your local Peugeot dealership during our October van event from the 10th to the 31st of October and drive away with an exclusive finance offer. Master the impossible. Peugeot Motor Company PLC is acting as a credit broker, not a lender. Finance subject to status. Terms and conditions apply. Business users and over 18s only. Guarantee may be required. PSA Finance UK Limited.
Sort of pick at Mark Zuckerberg's recent speech last week.
How can I help you?
Just a latte, please.
Grande. Guatemalan bean. Hazelnut syrup. Whipped cream.
All right.
That's $5.25, please.
Is it going to keep a lid on the stock?
You can't always control what you spend, but you can save as you spend with Save the Change. When you use your Lloyds Bank debit card, we'll round up the amount to the next pound and transfer the difference to your nominated Lloyds Bank savings account. Feel in control every day with our mobile banking app. Lloyds Bank, by your side. T's and C's apply.
Capital of the world, 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and at TikTok on Twitter. This is Bloomberg Radio. This is Bloomberg Business Week.
The lives of the wealthy are much more complex than they used to be.
Insight from the reporters and editors who bring you America's most trusted business magazine.
I don't think that you're going to be handsomely rewarded by beating expectations.
Plus, global business, finance, and tech news as it happens.
We see companies flush with cash with really strong organic growth.
How much do you think Uber executives are sitting around and saying, "Lift, darn it"?
Bloomberg Business Week with Carol Masser and Jason Kelly on Bloomberg Radio.
Live from the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers studio and also live from the West Coast. Welcome to Bloomberg Business Week for this Tuesday, October 22nd, 2019. I'm Carol Masser, along with my co-host Jason Kelly. And Jason, just crossing the Bloomberg, the UK Parliament starting the vote on the second reading of the Brexit bill. We have been awaiting this, and this is a big, if not another, historic day in the Brexit story.
Right, and we're really going to get a sense of where it goes from here. I was just talking with David Weston a couple minutes ago. There have been a few key days. This certainly feels like the latest key day. And we've got a top live blog going. We'll take you there live when things really start getting going. But first, let's get to Charlie Pellet. He's got an update on the trading day. Hey, Charlie.
Well, hello there, Jason Kelly. Looking at the Dow, looking at the S&P. They are both higher. It is a down day for the NASDAQ Composite Index, falling 19 points right now. We dropped there at 0.2%. Facebook slumping 3.4%. The U.S. stocks advancing as investors weigh a flurry of corporate earnings. Right now, the S&P is up 4, a gain of 0.1%, heading toward a 12-week high. Right now, the S&P at 3,011. The Dow up 95. That's a gain of 0.4%. NASDAQ, as I mentioned, down 19. The 10-year up 3/32 with a yield of 1.78%. Gold is up 49 cents the ounce at $14.85, and West Texas Intermediate crude up 1.4%, $54.07 a barrel. I'm Charlie Pelleton. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Charlie, thank you so much. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Jason Kelly here in Los Angeles. Carol Masser back in New York City. The vote is underway in the UK Parliament. Carol will bring you those results live when they happen. We're also going to catch up with the CEO of Syngenta, making a bold move into the world of sustainability. It feels like putting his money where his mouth is here.
Exactly. So we'll hear from him as also his chief sustainability officer. We've got 50 companies to watch. It's in the upcoming issue of Bloomberg Business Week. And Under Armour, Kevin Plank out as CEO, not totally leaving the company he founded, but this is a big change from the company that he has been running for more than 2 decades. And then we're going to talk about TI earnings. I think it's important to focus on that chip sector.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot to get to coming up. So how do we make sense of all of this going on at once? You heard Charlie talk about the market reaction to all these headlines. Headline bingo once again today. Let's turn to our boys to set the Business Week agenda. Joe Weisenthal, markets editor for Bloomberg, the co-host of What You Missed. That's coming up at 4 p.m. Wall Street time on BTV. And Dave Wilson, stocks editor, author of The Chart and the Stock of the Day. So Dave, I want to start with you. What's the one thing you're looking at amid this sea of headlines?
Just such a mixed bag when it comes to earnings today, and not something that we've seen up to now in earnings season. And maybe the easiest way to kind of illustrate that is to look at the 4 companies in the Dow Jones Industrial Average that reported results before the opening bell. You got Procter & Gamble, their fiscal first quarter results beating analyst average estimates in Bloomberg survey, and that stock's up more than 3%. You got United Technology coming coming out ahead of projections for the third quarter, raising their full-year forecast, which, by the way, P&G did as well. United Technologies up 2.3%. On the other hand, McDonald's down 4.5%. Their U.S. results really the source of that kind of decline because they came up short on the top line and bottom line, and the U.S. sales just didn't measure up to what people were looking for. And Travelers down 7.4%. Their third quarter earnings well below projections. They're talking about legal costs. They're talking about weather-related losses. But that contrast really shows you what's going on in terms of earnings and why stocks really have no direction if you look at the S&P 500 at the moment.
All right, let's bring in Joe Weisenthal. Joe, what's the one thing you think investors need to know on this Tuesday?
Well, it's kind of quiet, but right now as we're talking, we're about to get the thick of Brexit news, and I do think that one of the weirder things that's happened over the last couple of weeks is that Brexit news is no longer been confined to UK, and that Brexit news has moved global markets. So I am talking to you, but also with one eye looking at our coverage, because this is now, at least for the moment, a macro story.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I feel like investors continue to deal with so many different macro stories. It's something we talk about in the magazine this week, and really question, can we once again kind of climb this wall of worry when it comes to the trade? All right, Joe Weisenthal, thank you so much. Markets editor at Bloomberg News, co-host of What'd You Miss? Find that at 4 p.m. Wall Street time on Bloomberg TV. Dave Wilson, he's going to be back a little bit later on with his chart and stock of the day. He's our stocks editor at Bloomberg News. Let's get a check on world and national news headlines. For that, let's turn things over to Bob Moon.
Carol, thank you. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell put the brakes on a move to impose sanctions on Turkey over its incursion into Syria. Bloomberg's Irv Chapman reports from Capitol Hill.
McConnell introduced his own resolution that calls on President Trump to end the drawdown of U.S. forces from the area and rethink his invitation for Turkey's President Erdogan to visit the White House.
Sanctions may play an important role, and I'm open to the Senate considering them, but we need to think extremely carefully before we employ the same tools against a democratic NATO ally that we would against the worst rogue state.
Committees of both houses are holding hearings this week on the president's unexpected decision to pull the United States out of its alliance with the Syrian Kurd forces that have fought the Islamic State. On Capitol Hill, Irv Chapman, Bloomberg Radio.
The Congressional Black Caucus is condemning President Trump's comparison of impeachment to lynching. Democrat Karen Bass of California, the group's chairwoman, called lynching a horrific stain on our country's history and said it's wrong to compare the systematic brutal torture and murder of thousands of African Americans to a constitutional process of investigation. The only black Republican in the Senate is sticking up for Trump, telling reporters that while he himself wouldn't use the word, he understands the president's point.
There's no question that the impeachment process is the closest thing of a political death row trial. So I get his absolute rejection of the process.
The black lawmaker disagreed with a reporter's suggestion that the word is very racially charged. Global News, 24 hours a day, on air and at TikTok, on Twitter, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Bob Moon. Jason, Carol, back to you.
Bob, thanks so much. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Jason Kelly and Carol Masser, right here on Bloomberg Radio.
Yeah, we're talking about farming and we're talking about sustainability. Underway at Bloomberg headquarters, the Bloomberg Sustainable Business Summit. Our next two guests participating in the summit. And let's talk about what they are up to at Syngenta when it comes to sustainability, some big initiatives. Let's bring in Syngenta CEO Eric Fierwald and Alexandra Brand, who is Chief Sustainability Officer at the Basel, Switzerland-based company, both in our Bloomberg Interactive Broker studio in New York. My co-host Jason Kelly out there in our LA bureau. So nice to have both of you with us. Eric, let's just get right to it. What are you guys doing at Syngenta when it comes to sustainability? Because I do feel like everybody's talking about it. Different companies approach it differently. Tell us about your initiatives.
First of all, everything we do at Syngenta now has to do with sustainability because agriculture is right at the heart of sustainability. This year, the extreme weather events that farmers all over the world had to deal with was unimaginable before.
An eye-opening shocking, I feel like, for many.
Unbelievable. You were here. You saw the flooding in the United States. And it's not just part of the United States, massive part of the United States. And it wasn't just a 5-year or 10-year flood, historic flood of all times. At the same time, in Australia, we're having the worst drought in history. Highest temperature ever recorded in France and other things like that. It's happening all the time. So we have to help farmers deal with climate change. It's weather extremes. The second thing we have to do is we have to, as an industry, be part of the solution to climate change. We've got to reduce our carbon emissions, help be part of the solution that ends up reducing carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So climate change is halted. So we've got to do both. And that's what we announced today was $2 billion. Everything we do goes to sustainability, but $2 billion towards breakthrough innovations, things that are really going to help step change things here.
All right, so Alexandra, take us a level down on that $2 billion. How are you going to spend it? Where are you going to spend it? What does that disbursement look like?
Growers deeply care about their soils, and soils is something which ensures their productivity and at the same time helps to sequester carbon in the soil. So a lot of that money will be spent on good soil management. We are looking at innovating in agricultural systems. So here in the United States, for example, we help growers to decrease the carbon footprint of their farm, increase the carbon content of their soil, decrease their water footprint, and with that, connect them to food companies who give them a better revenue for the crops they've grown because they've been growing more sustainable. So this is a model we feel is scalable, and we say we'll put much more money in matching seed varieties to these soils and digital solutions to ensure, the right science being recorded year over year and traceability and transparency for food companies and consumers.
How can you move in terms of sustainability action, move others, whether it's companies that you work with, whether it's your customers, whether it's your suppliers, to get everybody on board, right? Because we really need an all-in focus in order to make a difference.
I think the ultimate here is the consumers want this. Consumers want sustainably grown food. So we're starting to work with food companies and NGOs like the Nature Conservancy, who is with us on stage today at the Bloomberg conference. But food companies like Kellogg's and General Mills to work with farmers in the U.S. to make sure that they're growing using the best sustainability practices, keeping the carbon in the soil,
a pair of award-winning silver Galaxy buds.
Passes over their farm, whatever it takes to have the
10 years
best
ago, we launched our first Galaxy smartphone, and to celebrate, we're giving customers who purchase any Galaxy S10
Kellogg's is doing now is showing pictures of farmers in the retail store saying, "This farmer,
get the latest Samsung Galaxy smartphone now at your local Carphone Warehouse shop or carphonewarehouse.com.
So ultimately, we want the consumer to get the data on the food that they're buying,
Puts you on the sideline for the 2019 college football season free all year long.
I was just going to say, Jason, like you and I talk about this about our kids and how they turn around the boxes of things and what's in it in terms of ingredients. But I do think, Jason, that we're getting towards a world where people are like, where did this come from? What were the sustainability initiatives?
Well, and it's so interesting, too, because with that bottoms-up approach that we're talking about that happens around our kitchen tables, it feels like, Eric, we're also seeing a top-down from the boardroom level. And I wanted to ask you about that because you've served in very senior positions in a number of companies. You're currently on the board, I believe, of Eli Lilly, among others. What are those conversations like in the boardroom now versus what they might have been a few years ago?
Start hearing more of what you want. Upgrade to TuneIn Premium and get over 45 commercial-free music stations, live commercial-free news, and every live NFL, MLB, NBA,
maybe even you had a committee.
Visit TuneIn.com/premium.
A few people that didn't really want to be on that committee, but somebody would do it. Now it's right at the heart of the board's discussions. Alexandra is right there with our board talking about sustainability is our business. It's not some side thing.
Well, that's so interesting, right? Because, for a long time, I feel like in the technology world, we talked about the IT people. It was a whole separate department. Now they have a seat at the table. And I feel like sustainability, it's no longer like, those are those guys in the back corner. I don't know what they do. You have a seat at the table. You're in the room when decisions are happening, Alexandra.
Oh, absolutely. And we understand how much that thinking changes our practice, changes what is demanded from growers. So if we are there, it's absolutely critical for for our business success and for the growth.
Is it going to all be more expensive?
Well, I don't think so. I think technologies are a great driver for productivity and will continue to be so. So I don't expect us to be more expensive in food production, but being able to produce food much more different with good technologies and enabling policies for these technologies.
All right, so Eric, let's talk about your business a little bit. We are, after all, Bloomberg. What's next? IPO has been floated. What do you do next to sort of continue to fund to build this company to expand?
Yeah, so we were purchased 2.5 years ago. We closed our deal with ChemChina. We said at that time that we would go public. We planned to IPO within 5 years, so we've got 2.5 years. I believe that we're on track. Our performance is strong. The markets are challenging, but assuming that the agriculture markets continue to stabilize and have some improvement, I fully expect us to be able to IPO within the next year, 2.5 years. Now, you've heard, there's been word out there that we're working with banks and we're getting ready, which is true, so that whenever the market conditions are right and our performance is right, within the next 2 years, we'll be ready to go public.
Nothing sooner.
Well, we'll see, but certainly nothing this year. But something could happen in 2020 or 2021. But that's not what we're focused on. What we're focused on right now is creating a really great company, delivering strong results, and then the opportunity will open up.
One last question, and because we talk so much about being a private company, I mean, under ChemChina, just 30 seconds, is it nicer to kind of be out of the public eye for a little bit?
It is. It's very nice. But I'll tell you, even when we go public again, it's nice to have an anchor shareholder that has the long view. It's willing to allow us to invest in things that take 5 or 10 years, technologies that are really going to make a difference.
Love getting some time with both of you. Thank you so much. Eric Fierwald, CEO at Syngenta, Alexander Brand, Chief Sustainability Officer at Syngenta. Want to take you to London and the Brexit vote.
To be moved formally. I beg to move. Move formally, thank you. The question is, as on the order paper, as many as other evidence say aye. Of the contrary, no. Division!
And that be transparent. So portability and interoperability go hand in glove.
So Facebook, I don't love you anymore. I want to go somewhere else. For purposes of this legislation.
So it looks like the government winning this vote. I'm just looking, Jason, at our Bloomberg Live blog when it comes to the UK Parliament voting on this Brexit bill. So the Prime Minister Johnson winning his first vote on the Brexit legislation. Keep in mind there are 2 votes. This first vote was what's known as the second reading vote, and this is basically on whether Parliament agrees with the general principles of Boris Johnson's bill. There will be another vote immediately afterward, so that will be on his proposed fast-track timetable for passing the law. And you started off earlier talking about your conversation with David Weston. I mean, we have so many times in this process talked about historic moments in terms of Brexit. This is a big one, and this ultimately, will figure out, what happens and if we get something done and if we now have a real timetable in place.
Well, and this is a win for Boris Johnson, I think, unmitigated, at least for the moment. And obviously we know that this story changes from moment to moment for sure. But Boris Johnson, who has had a very, very tough few weeks dealing with his own party, certainly the broader parliament, certainly the EU, public opinion, all of it. He pulled out a win. It was close-ish, I guess, 329 to 299. The pound holding its gains, we should say. And our colleagues over in the Top Live blog saying that 329 to 299, it's quite a wide gap. And Rob Hutton, who's covered this so closely, saying that Johnson might have enough leeway to lose some support and still get the timetable he wants through. And that's going to be the key here, right, Carol, is whether that October 31st timetable still holds for the UK to leave the EU. It's sort of remarkable where we are right now.
Yeah, exactly. That second vote, that was considered to be more important of the two, and for the government, more difficult to win. Let's get into this with Dr. Sam Nadapoff. He's president at Empire Global Ventures, joining us on the phone from Washington, D.C. He's worked at the U.S. Department of Commerce, the ECB, the European Central Bank, the German Bundesbank. He's got a great global perspective. So, Sam, weigh in, one vote down, another to go. What does today's vote so far tell you?
We're really going to try to introduce a new
it tells us that both politicians and Britons are exhausted over Brexit, and some of this is just, let's get this done and move on.
Or another platform, you've got to
Boris
have
Johnson has very cleverly harnessed that.
Interoperability.
But let's remember what Brexit is.
The last
Brexit has wrecked British politics,
but it was
it's damaged the British economy, it's reduced its international status, and it threatens the very nature of the United Kingdom because it opens the door for Scotland and Northern Ireland to leave. So, again, he won one vote. I believe it's the first vote he's won as Prime Minister. The second vote vote's coming up.
Here I use the analogy of what a lot of
the projections were he was going to lose that.
Hiring out an alarm service company.
There's what's going on in the House of Commons, and there's what's going to go on in the country, and they're very different.
Committees in the Senate that you're not a member of, the ones you are,
Sam, about
one of them is international trade and finance.
Northern Ireland here, the DUP specifically, because it feels like they're part of the swing here, and that all goes to this border with Ireland, right?
Northern Ireland has long taken the position that it is the most dutiful daughter of the British Crown, that it is inexorably part of Great Britain, and there's a strong difference of opinion among religionists in Northern Ireland between the Protestants who wish to remain part of Britain and the Catholics who do not. The problem is that Boris Johnson, in running to become Prime Minister within the Conservative Party, said, I will never create a red line between Britain and Northern Ireland.
You cannot continue to steal intellectual property. You can't restrain American companies in a way that we don't restrain Chinese companies.
He just proved it
when you had this
with
kind
a vote,
of unlevel playing
and that's
field.
why they're voting against him now.
Enterprises in China.
So I'm thinking as investors, right? We've been just like you talk about fatigue, and I think we laugh about it, the story that keeps on giving, but there are many macro stories out there that I feel like keep on giving. But it sounds like you're expecting, at least at this point, we are getting ready to potentially at least see the end of it. And that could be good or bad, though, in terms of the market environment, especially the European market environment.
Look, I think you're exactly right. I think investors want clarity overall. If Brexit is to be the path, let's take Brexit. But as a result of the preparations for Brexit, 5 banks in the city of London, Deutsche Bank, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Citigroup, Morgan Stanley, transferred $857 billion of balance sheet assets from London to Frankfurt, or 10% of the money in the UK banking system. Honda closed down a car-making manufacturing plant in central Britain, central England, because as a result of leaving the EU, there'll be a 10% tariff on this. If you're an investor and you're looking at Great Britain, you may get stability, but this may be more of a distressed asset than you thought 2 weeks ago.
And so what is an investor looking for here? To your point, it's stability to some extent, a timeline for sure. Does that mean, in your estimation, do companies take at least a little pause here to figure out, does October 31st stick? Are we waiting longer? What do you expect companies to do in this very sort of brief interim period?
Sort of the legislation that would try to protect Hong Kong.
Larger companies have been planning for Brexit for some time.
What should
Land
U.S.
Rover
companies doing business in China
Jaguar,
do?
they have been saying, we are ostensibly British companies, but we are having to plan for an enormously difficult process for us. So banks have been planning, large corporates have been planning. The problem is smaller British companies haven't been able to plan because they haven't had that flexibility. And if Boris Johnson wins this next vote, Brexit happens on Thursday.
It's interesting. I'm looking at our Bloomberg Live blog. We love this, where our whole team is weighing in on this. And Robert Hutton, our UK government reporter, says appearances can be deceptive on this, meaning Brexit and the Brexit vote. On Saturday, I watched the DUP head for the lobby, or so I thought. It turned out they voted yes. So it ain't over until it's over, Sam, right? I mean, you just never know.